Greetings everyone. Today we'll start the class with tonicity. Tonicity is supposed to be the relative concentration of the solutions. If we consider two solutions, between the two, if you consider that osmosis is going to take place, then tonicity is the factor that decides that in which direction and how much osmosis is going to take place. It is the difference in concentration of the two solutions that we consider. So let us explain this. According to this feature, solutions can be graded as isotonic, hypertonic and hypotonic. So let us get into the details of this. In this figure, it is showed that there are salt solutions of different concentration and how an animal cell and a plant cell behave in presence of variety of salt solutions that is being showed here. This is supposed to be a red blood cell and this is supposed to be a plant cell. It is kept in a solution. In all these three cases, they are kept in a salt solution. In the first case, in this case, the solution in the relative concentration of water molecules and the solute in the surrounding solution and inside the cell is the same. There is no difference in their concentration. So in both animal and in the plant cell. So in this case, there is going to be no net movement of water. That means no net movement does not mean that water will not move at all. There might be movement of water inwards and there might be movement of water outwards. But it will result into a no net movement because the amount of water movement will be the same in both the directions. So this happens only when the concentration of the surrounding solution and the concentration inside the cell are same. In that case, no osmosis takes place because osmosis means a net movement of water, a countable, an observable movement of water in either direction. Next, let us come to hypotonic solution. In this case, the solution outside the cell has lower solute concentration. Listen to this carefully. This blue solution that is outside the cell has lower solute concentration. That means this solution outside is dilute in comparison to the solution inside. In that case, solute, if it is less outside, that means the solvent concentration, or in this case the concentration of water, is more outside. So we know that osmosis takes place from a higher concentration towards a lower concentration. So in case of animal cell and in case of plant cell, in case of both the cells, water will enter the cell. Okay, or the proper way of saying it will be that the water molecules will enter the cell in a larger amount than the water molecules leaving the cell. So water entering the cell will exceed the water leaving it, and this process is known as endosmosis. So if a cell is kept in a hypotonic solution, endosmosis takes place, and in some cases, due to endosmosis, the cell may burst. Okay, the cell swells up and it bursts. Now let us come to hypertonic solution. Okay, in this case, the solution around the cell, or the solution in which the cell is kept, has higher solute concentration. That means the solution outside the cell is concentrated. Solute concentration is more, that means water concentration or solvent concentration is less. In this case, the water molecules from the interior of the cell will move out, or we can say that water entering the cell is less in this case than the water leaving it. So the net movement of water will be towards the outside. So this kind of osmosis is known as exosmosis. And as water moves out, you can see that the cell is shrinking. Here also, the cell wall, obviously it's a rigid part, so it remains as it is, but see, the cytoplasm has shrunk. Okay, so we can say that in case of an isotonic solution, there is no osmosis. In case of hypertonic solution, there is exosmosis and shrinkage of cells takes place. And in case of hypotonic solution, endosmosis or swelling of cell takes place. In case of plant cells, you have to understand one thing, that due to the rigidity of cell wall, it can resist the bulging and protect the delicate cellular parts which we cannot see in animal cell. Now if you notice this part, the cell has swollen up or is bulged out. So this phenomenon can be termed as, or the phenomenon related to this behavior which we will learn later can be termed as turgidity. Okay, so when the cell swells up like this, we can call it a turgid cell. Okay, and this kind of a cell can be called as a flaccid cell. Okay, next part of the chapter is active transport. We have learnt till now that movement of a substance takes place from its higher concentration to its lower concentration. But in active transport, we'll see the opposite. In this case, a substance, be it a solute or be it an ion, it will move from its lower to its higher concentration, and that too in presence of a living cell membrane. Now that only happens when cell spends energy. That is, for this kind of a movement to take place, for this kind of a movement where a substance, that is a salt or an ion, moves from lower to higher concentration, energy is used from the cell. In this case, the direction of movement is opposite to that of diffusion. Now there are certain salts and minerals that are taken in from the soil, such as here it is mentioned, such as nitrates, sulfates, potassium, zinc, manganese. They cannot pass through the cell membrane. Now why so? Because in a small cell, the amount of salt that is present, and if you consider about the soil, these are all micronutrients. They are present in a vast area, they are spread out in a vast area, making their concentration in the soil less than their concentration inside the cell. So movement against the concentration gradient does not take place. So now the minerals to enter, they will have to forcibly enter. So in order to obtain them, to carry them inward from their region of lower concentration, cell needs to spend energy in the form of ATP. That is what active transport is. And we have passive transport as well. It is nothing but diffusion only. Passive means we do not need any expenditure of energy. So there is a free movement of molecules, and in this case the movement takes place in the direction of higher concentration from higher concentration to their lower concentration. Okay, so that was about tonicity, active and passive transport. Let us come to turgidity and flaccidity. Now before we go to turgidity and flaccidity, this entire diagram and the explanation is very important. Practice the diagram and the theory behind it. Now let us come to turgidity and flaccidity. Every living plant cell, directly or indirectly, is in contact with fluids. The root hairs in particular, they are surrounded by soil water. Now if they are surrounded by fluids, then all such cells will show osmosis. Now, as in osmosis we have learned that cells either gain water or lose water. So two kind of situations can take place. The first situation is this, that when a cell reaches a state where it cannot accommodate any more water, that means accommodating any more water will result into its bursting out, that is, it is fully distended. In that case, a cell will be called turgid and the condition will be called turgidity. Okay. So when a cell is turgid, its walls are stretched under the pressure from inside. Okay, because the water is pushing the cells from inside the cell and it presses the cell contents towards the center of the cell. Okay, so water, I'll repeat this, when a cell is turgid, its wall is stretched under the pressure from inside, and as a reaction to that, it presses the cell contents towards the center of the cell. Okay, so the pressure of the cell contents on the cell wall is called turgor pressure, and the pressure exerted by the cell wall on the cell content is called wall pressure. This is the best diagram to explain this. Look at this diagram. When the cell is fully distended, due to the presence of water, the cell contents will push against the cell wall. So that pressure is known as turgor pressure. Okay, and as a reaction to that, the wall will be pushing the cell contents inwards. That pressure which is exerted by the wall in response to the turgor pressure is called as wall pressure. Now let us see, if at any time, now when do the vegetables burst or when do a cell burst? If at any time the turgor pressure becomes more than the wall pressure, the cell ruptures and the cell contents burst out. Exactly what happens when fruits and vegetables burst out. Now when a cell is turgid, it is considered to be in a somewhat balanced state, that no more water. It's turgid means turgor pressure is pushing the cell wall pressure is pushing the cell contents, but it is turgid, it is fully distended, due to which no more water is entering, and turgor pressure and wall pressure, they are counterbalancing each other. Therefore there is no further absorption. So that's why we can say that when a cell is turgid, it is somewhat in a balanced state. Now in this case, now this is theoretically the case. Practically, we can say that further absorption of water will not take place, but the concentration of solute inside the cell may be greater than outside the cell. The movement of water or absorption of water does not take place does not mean that the cell has achieved an ideal balanced state. That is not possible. The solute concentration will be greater inside the cell. Okay. Now let us come to plasmolysis and flaccidity. Flaccidity is generally considered as opposite of turgidity. Let us see what it is. When a living cell, such as the cell of a leaf of an aquatic plant, is placed in a fresh water, it remains in fully distended condition. Now, its plasma membrane, that means, is in close contact with the cell wall. This is the case of a turgid cell. See, these are the cell walls, these lines are the cell walls, and as you can see, greens at the sides, that means the plasma membrane is in close contact with the cell wall. Okay? Now, if this cell is taken out from fresh water and it is kept in a 5% salt solution, 5% salt solution means the surrounding has more solute concentration. Okay, the surrounding has more solute concentration. That means the cell has more water concentration. So cell will be losing water. Due to loss of water, you can see that the cytoplasm has shrunk. The plasma membrane has withdrawn from the cell wall. This shrinkage from the cell wall is called plasmolysis, and the cells in this state are called flaccid. The condition is called flaccidity. Okay, now what if this plasmolyzed cell is again returned to water? This plasmolyzed cell, if I again return it to water, it becomes, before it is dead, before it loses all its water content and it dies, if it is returned to water, it will again swell up, and this will be the condition. So this recovery or reversal of plasmolysis will be called deplasmolysis. Okay, this reversal is called deplasmolysis. Okay. Now, let us see the definitions. These definitions you have to memorize. Turgidity is the state of cell in which the cell wall is rigid and stretched by an increase in the volume of vacuoles due to absorption of water. The cell is then said to be turgid because the vacuoles, their volume increases because water gets in here, and then they start pushing the cell contents towards the wall, and that's how the distended condition of the cell is reached, and that's what we call as turgidity. Plasmolysis is the contraction of cytoplasm. This contraction of cytoplasm from the cell wall due to withdrawal of water when placed in strong hypertonic solution. From their normal condition to a hypertonic solution, when they are kept, this is seen. And flaccidity is the condition in which the cell content is shrunken and the cell is no more tight. The cell is then said to be flaccid. Now, what are the uses of this turgidity to the plants? Now, turgidity provides rigidity to the soft tissues such as the leaves. Whenever you see the leaves are wilted, we can call that they are in a flaccid state. So, during hot afternoons, the wilting will take place because the water loss due to transpiration will be way more than the water absorbed by the roots. But during the evening, when the transpiration rate lowers, then it will again become turgid. Now, turgor pressure helps to push through hard ground. Yes, this is a very important function in plants, that whenever you see seedlings, the seedlings, when they come out or they crack open their wall and they come out, or you can see many people seedlings coming out of concrete floor or from a wall or from the walls, that is due to turgor pressure. Then turgor pressure helps in building up the root pressure, due to which water can rise upwards. Now, what is root pressure? It is the pressure developed in the roots due to continued inward movement of water. Turgor pressure also helps in opening and closing of the stomata. Now let me tell you, turgor pressure is only one of the reasons. There are many such reasons that combine together and work together to result into the opening and closing of stomata. Turgor pressure is one such reason. So turgor movement, the rapid drooping of Mimosa pudica, the touch-me-not plant, that also happens due to turgor movement. Now in earlier classes you have learned that it is a kind of, or in this class only, in previous chemical coordination chapter you have learned that it's a kind of movement as a response to touch. So see, these are the reasons behind that. Okay, so give these portion a read, and we will get back the next day with root pressure, and that will be the end of the chapter. You have read about stomata in class 9. Basically that is what happens here, that the guards, due to the synthesis of glucose during photosynthesis, some other chemical changes takes place, and the osmotic pressure of the guard cells increase. They absorb water, due to which they become turgid and stomata closes. So please read this portion. It is very important, from tonicity to active and passive transport, along with turgidity, plasmolysis, flaccidity. Next day we will talk about root pressure, and that will be the end of the chapter. So that's it for today. Thank you.